What if you could make money by renting people a room they barely ever use? No inventory, no restaurant kitchen, no employees serving customers all day, just rows of small storage units and people paying you every month to keep their stuff inside. At first, owning a self-storage facility sounds almost too simple. Buy some land, build storage units, rent them out, collect monthly payments. But there's a problem. Those empty metal doors don't make you any money, and you're about to discover why occupancy is everything in the self-storage business. So how much money can a self-storage facility actually generate? And more importantly, how much does the owner really keep? Let's break down the economics of owning a self-storage facility. Before a storage facility can make money, you need one thing, a place to put it. And this is where the economics start getting expensive. Unlike many small businesses, a self-storage facility is heavily dependent on real estate. You need land. And not just any land. You need land in an area where people actually need storage. A facility in the middle of nowhere might have hundreds of empty units. A facility near a growing city, apartment complexes, businesses, or densely populated neighborhoods can potentially have a completely different economics. Because your customers aren't really paying for the storage unit itself. They're paying for location, convenience, and space. And that space has to be built. Imagine you purchase a piece of land and decide to develop a facility with 500 storage units. Some units might be small enough for boxes and personal belongings. Others could be large enough to store furniture, equipment, or business inventory. The construction cost can vary dramatically depending on the land, local regulations, unit sizes, security systems, utilities, and the type of facility. But regardless of the exact number, you are making a very large investment before your first customer even arrives. And that's the first major risk. You spend millions building a facility, and then you have to convince people to rent those units. This is where the business model becomes interesting. Because unlike a supermarket or restaurant, you don't need customers walking through the door every few minutes. You need customers to sign a rental agreement and then keep paying. Imagine you have 500 units. If the average customer pays $150 per month and every unit is occupied, your theoretical monthly revenue would be $75,000. That's $900,000 per year. And remember, that's before expenses. But there's a major assumption hidden inside those numbers: 100% occupancy. In the real world, your facility won't always be completely full. Let's say your average occupancy is 85%. Now you're renting out around 425 units. At $150 per month, that produces approximately $63,750 per month, or about $765,000 per year. Still sounds pretty good. But now we need to answer a more important question. Where does all that money go? The first major expense is property-related costs. You may have property taxes, you may have insurance, you may have financing payments if you borrowed money to purchase or develop the facility. And if you don't own the land outright, you could also have land-related expenses. Then there are operating costs: electricity, water, security systems, cameras, gates, lighting, cleaning, landscaping, repairs, software, advertising, and employees or property management. But here's where self-storage becomes interesting. The facility doesn't require the same level of labor as many other businesses. There isn't a kitchen producing thousands of meals. There aren't dozens of employees serving customers, and there's no perishable inventory sitting on shelves. A large portion of the business can be automated. Customers can find a unit online. They can sign a rental agreement. They can make payments digitally. They can receive an access code. And in some facilities, they can move in without ever speaking to an employee. That means the owner can potentially generate substantial revenue without having a massive payroll. But automation doesn't eliminate costs. It simply changes where the costs come from. Security becomes extremely important. You're storing people's furniture, electronics, documents, business equipment, and personal belongings. A broken gate or security problem can create serious liability and damage the reputation of the facility. So owners spend money on cameras, access control systems, lighting, alarms, fencing, and monitoring. And then there's maintenance. A storage facility may look simple: rows of metal doors, concrete roads, a gate, maybe an office, but thousands of square feet of property still need maintenance. Roofs leak, doors break, locks fail, lights stop working, pavement deteriorates, security systems need repairs, and eventually, the entire facility needs upgrades. But there's another expense that can quietly destroy profitability. Marketing. A storage unit doesn't generate money just because it exists. Someone has to rent it, and customers have options. If there are 5 storage facilities within a few miles of your property, you need to compete on price, location, convenience, security, reviews, and availability. This is why digital marketing and local search visibility can become important. Because when someone suddenly needs storage, they're usually not planning it months in advance. They search for storage units near me, and the facility that appears at the right time can get the customer. Now let's return to our hypothetical 500-unit facility. Suppose it generates around $765,000 in annual rental revenue. Now let's estimate some simplified expenses. Property taxes and insurance, $100,000. Maintenance, utilities, security and landscaping, $100,000. Management, software, marketing and administration, $75,000. That brings operating expenses to around $275,000. So before financing and major capital expenditures, you could have approximately $490,000 in operating income. That sounds fantastic. But there's a catch. You still have to pay for the property. If you borrowed millions of dollars to buy the land and construct the facility, debt payments could consume a large portion of that cash flow. And this is where the difference between revenue, operating income, and actual owner profit becomes extremely important. A facility can generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue, while the owner may have far less available after debt, taxes, capital improvements, and other obligations. And this is also why the original purchase price matters so much. If you buy a great facility at the wrong price, the economics can become terrible. But there's another factor that can dramatically change the business: unit mix. Not every storage unit should be the same size. A customer who only needs a small space doesn't want to pay for a massive unit. Someone storing furniture or business equipment might need something much larger. So owners can divide the facility into different unit sizes. For example, small units, medium units, large units, and sometimes specialized spaces such as climate-controlled units. This allows the owner to maximize revenue from the available land, because in real estate, you don't just want more space. You want more revenue from every square foot. And this is where pricing becomes powerful. Suppose your facility is 95% occupied. It might look like the perfect situation, but if your prices are too low, you could still be leaving money on the table. On the other hand, raise prices too aggressively, and customers may leave. So the owner has to constantly balance price versus occupancy. This creates one of the most important metrics in the entire business: revenue per available unit. Because an empty unit generates nothing, and a fully occupied facility with terrible pricing may also be underperforming. The goal is to find the combination that produces the most profitable revenue. Then there's something that makes self-storage particularly interesting. Customers can stay for a long time. Someone might rent a unit while moving, then keep it while they're renovating their house, then continue renting it because they don't want to deal with the hassle of moving everything out. Businesses may use storage for inventory. Families may store furniture. Students may use it between semesters. And once someone's belongings are inside, moving them somewhere else can be a hassle. That creates a powerful economic advantage: recurring revenue. You don't have to sell the same customer a new product every week. You just have to keep the unit rented. But recurring revenue doesn't mean guaranteed revenue. Economic conditions can change. New competitors can enter the market. Construction can add hundreds of new units nearby. Local demand can weaken, and if too many facilities compete for the same customers, occupancy can fall. Imagine your 500-unit facility drops from 85% occupancy to 65%. Now you're renting only around 325 units. At $150 per month, annual rental revenue falls to approximately $585,000. That's a decline of around $180,000 per year. And here's the dangerous part: Your property taxes didn't fall by $180,000. Your insurance didn't disappear. Your security system still needs to operate. Your facility still needs maintenance. And if you have debt, the bank still wants its payment. This is why occupancy is so important. The facility has a large amount of fixed cost. Every additional occupied unit can add revenue without requiring a proportional increase in operating expenses. That creates operating leverage, and it can make a highly occupied facility extremely profitable. But it works in the opposite direction too. Low occupancy can quickly squeeze the owner's cash flow. So what separates a successful self-storage owner from an unsuccessful one? It's not simply owning more units. It's location, acquisition price, occupancy, pricing, operating efficiency, and financing. A great facility in a growing market can be incredibly valuable. A poorly located facility with high debt and weak occupancy can become a financial headache. And that's the strange thing about self-storage. The business looks almost boring. There are no complicated products, no restaurant menu, no massive inventory, no factory, just buildings full of doors. But behind those doors is a powerful business model. You're selling space instead of products. You're collecting recurring payments instead of constantly chasing new sales. And if you can keep occupancy high while controlling operating costs, each additional rented unit can contribute significantly to the bottom line. So, is owning a self-storage facility a good business? It can be, but it's not as simple as buying some land and putting up metal buildings. The real business is acquiring the right property at the right price in the right market and keeping as many units occupied as possible. Because a storage facility with 500 units might sound like 500 opportunities to make money, but an empty unit is worth exactly $0. And that's the economics of self-storage. You don't make money because you own the space. You make money because someone else keeps paying you to use it. And perhaps the most interesting part is this. The customer may eventually forget what's inside the unit, but as long as the rent keeps getting paid, the owner never forgets about the monthly income.